Welcome back to Exotic Car Play Place. Everyone, thanks for joining in. Why I believe BMW is in fact one of the best car manufacturers for the true driving enthusiast. Well, a lot of people love the idea of just getting behind a car that's reliable. I too like to talk about reliable cars. There's no shortage of reliability discussions or depreciation conversations within my channel, but the reality of the matter is I always prioritize the driving experience above all else. As a matter of fact, with BMW's motto, the ultimate driving machine, it really does hold true. But there's a latest technology that further enhances the idea of that. Did you realize that BMW is one of the leading innovators of technology, but they're also one of the leading innovators of performance? I mean, a lot of the other manufacturers are getting soft, pushing the idea of hybrid vehicles or pure electric. And while that's great for the environment, it's not necessarily great for the driving enthusiast. Now, BMW's consistently shown time and time again that there are cars that are designed and dedicated for the driving enthusiast, and obviously I am truly one of those enthusiasts. As a matter of fact, my motto happens to be, life is too short to drive boring cars. Because I live by that motto, and yes, reliability is important to me. Nobody wants to drive a car that's unreliable. Everybody wants something that's relatively trouble-free. If you had to choose, if you had to flip a coin and say it was one or the other, what would you pick? Straight up reliability, but boring as hell? Or would you pick the vehicle that was maybe somewhat problematic, but extremely exciting to drive? Well, I know where I would go with my money, and that is the exciting driving dynamic. So in my opinion, BMW continues to display this by the way they're addressing certain new technologies. We'll talk about that in a moment. But obviously other things that they deal with. You know, they're big on dual clutch transmissions, although some of their recent cars, they'll go switch over to a ZF Auto, which I believe has done a little bit more to save costs. But they also continue building sports cars. They've got roadsters, they've got all kinds of two-door coupes, and vehicles that are just dedicated for the driving experience. They also create cars with well in excess of 600 horsepower. So there's no shortage of performance vehicles. Don't forget, BMW is also involved in Formula One. And even if you personally are not that hardcore, maybe you don't need a Formula One car, maybe you don't need that 750 horsepower fire-breathing Dragon, but you do like the performance drive. I mean, even cars like this, for example, 2 Series vehicles. You can get an M2 competition, you don't have to spend an arm and a leg, and you can get a vehicle like that with a double clutch transmission. You can get a manual gearbox in it, and you can get 400 horsepower. It makes it an extremely exciting driving opportunity. But those are the vehicles that are bread and butter to BMW. It's their sports sedans, their sports coupes. They still relish in certain models with a manual gearbox. And again, certain cars have the double clutch transmissions. So there's no doubt in my mind that you really won't find a better driving experience anywhere in the marketplace other than maybe stepping into a Porsche 911 or something more exotic. The fact of the matter is, for a car that's relatively attainable for many, many people and their budgets, BMW does provide a car that handles well, drives well, still has some of the basic fundamentals like the gearboxes that really do bring the experience. But today I just wanted to talk about the latest technology, and it actually has to do with subscriptions. Are you aware that lately BMW is offering subscriptions, or they're talking about it coming up in 2021, 2022, where they're going to offer up subscriptions for speed and radar detection that gets plugged essentially right into your vehicle. That's right, you will be able to pay for a subscription that will offer up a combination of not only a user pre-programmed map with identified locations, but it actually uses a combination of laser technology to identify specifically. It'll be watching not only on a map level, but it'll be watching it in real time as you're driving down the road and looking for those police that are actually trying to nab you and give you that speeding ticket. Now, this isn't a justification to drive around like a maniac. We know that, but it's pretty obvious there's still a market for radar detectors. And with all these cars now with 400, 500, 600 horsepower, it doesn't take much to get up to that speed limit and sometimes drift slightly over. And so you don't want a speeding ticket. And BMW is now potentially offering that subscription in about a year's time that you can order that in with your newest BMW. They're talking about in the newest BMW M4. That will be likely the first model you'll see it in. And then, of course, the latest iDrive 7, you'll likely be able to get in that version as well. And you'll start seeing this technology as well as these subscriptions available in every single vehicle in the BMW lineup. Now, that service will likely be powered by the HERE Technologies and Cedar Electronics as part of BMW's connected suite of technologies. You're going to find lots more opportunities as well to get other features enabled remotely by paying a small subscription. You'll be able to engage, whether pay an additional fee for other little features. Maybe they're moving traditionally from a hot climate to a cold climate. You may be able to enable heated seats as an example. There are going to be a lot more subscriptions available. Now, I will say this, in my personal opinion, I believe they are walking a fine line. And that fine line could be the difference between what would be considered normally standard features and now could become a little bit more of a gouge fest, where BMW is starting to take advantage of the subscription services and start charging you for everything. And I really hope they don't go down that path. But currently they're looking at about a $15 to $25 monthly subscription to get some of these features enabled. So it wouldn't be an excessively high dollar amount, but it may give you some other features that you wouldn't normally even get in a vehicle. Maybe even in lower end vehicles that normally some of these features or concepts don't come in. So this is some great new technology. Now, sure, it's innovation, electronics, it's a lot of different features that don't necessarily add to the driving dynamic. And we spoke that BMW is truly the ultimate driving machine. But in fact, I do believe that just adds to the sporting experience. Now, while companies like Lexus are designing vehicles to be more based on hybrids and more about the environment, BMW is still very much focused on the people that like to drive their cars. Now, this isn't condoning speeding. We're not talking about a moral or ethics discussion here, but we are saying this really does point to the clientele that drive BMWs. And those are people that enjoy the driving and the sporting experience. Now, this isn't condoning doing 200 kilometers an hour in an 80 zone, but this does in fact support the person that likes to drive and does prioritize the driving experience. After all, again, as you know, in my channel, I talk a lot about reliability and depreciation, but that's really not my first priority. I talk about that because those factors are important to me, but even more important to me is a vehicle with a great driving experience and dynamic. After all, you know, I drive an F-Type Jaguar, I drive an E60 M5. None of those vehicles would be on the most reliable list. Obviously, none of them are on the least depreciating list either. But I drive them because they are so great to drive. Vehicles really are meant to be driven, and in my opinion, the priority should go to the greatest driving experience. So again, as always, guys, life's way too short to drive boring cars, and be sure to subscribe to the channel. I hope to see you guys on the next one. Catch you real soon. Bye-bye.